touching the matter in issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me Lord.
Please turn off the other microphones. And Honorable Minister, could you and your delegation introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is William Kwashidali, Acting Registrar, Department of Cooperatives.
Good morning. I'm Adakurugo Hamidu, Chief Director of the Ministry of Labor, Jobs and Employment.
Good morning. My name is Dauda Ibrahim Brahima, Acting Chief Labor Officer.
Good morning. My name is George Smith Graham, Chief Executive, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission.
Thank you very much. I already introduced myself earlier. Rashid Pelko, Minister for Labor.
All right, thank you very much. Just to let everybody know, we are live on Parliamentary TV. We are live on TV3. We are live on Joy TV and Joy FM. We are live on ChannelOne TV, and GTV will be live in a few minutes. The first, Honorable Minister, your infractions will start from with Honorable Sabastan there on page 186. Madam, was the oath administered to you? Okay, could you introduce yourself so that everybody watching us will know who you are?
I'm Mary Ninson, Director of Finance. Ministry
Director of what?
Finance.
Finance.
Ministry of
Okay.
Labor, Jobs and Employment.
All right.
Thank you, Chair. The Ministry of Labor. Chairman, this infraction as cited by the Special Audit Report has to do with the government outstanding asset claims and outstanding asset 2024 year end. And in this particular case, commitments, claims, and arrears as submitted by the Ministry of Finance for audit amounted to 46.2 million. Of this, 44.8 million was validated, duly validated by the auditors. But 398,855 of this amount was rejected by the auditors. Two things come to play here. Clearly, most of the amounts in arrears submitted, that is 46.2 or 44.8 of the 46.2 million was duly validated. However, 398,000 of this amount was rejected by the auditor. So my question is, have you, as a ministry, been able to reconcile your records with that of the Ministry of Finance? That is the first question. And the other issue is, there is still some 1 million in claims which needs to be traced between the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Labor. What answers do you have to these two issues? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I've had some interactions with the Finance Department, and they have gone to the length when we can say it's been reconciled, but I'll give her the opportunity to explain it to the committee.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Please, I will start from the 398,000 amount that was rejected. Out of this amount, some were outstandings from 2011, when the ministry was Ministry of Social Welfare, and it was about 2 Nissan Tides that were purchased as at that time. As at that time, we realized that 40% of the documentations we have, we don't have the full documentation on it, but then we have only, the documents we have is indicating that 40% of the amount was paid. The remaining, we don't know what transpired over the years. So that is what the auditors raised. And then it was sent to the Japan Motors, that is the one with the vehicles was bought from, for them to confirm. But then Japan Motors didn't directly confirm the auditor's confirmation. All the outstandings, there was 124 Sterling Automotive. They also didn't confirm. Their amount is 30,800. They didn't confirm. There was another one for Willie Holmes Company Limited. They also failed to confirm. Then the only one that was confirmed was Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, their building. That one was confirmed. But then for the others, it was not confirmed. So for the 398,000, because of there was no confirmation, the auditors rejected it because the clients failed to confirm.
No, Madam, respectfully, the question relates to the specific amount of 398,855. The question is, have you been able to reconcile and know that the amount that was rejected by the auditors relates to what you are indicating that it's have you been able to reconcile these two?
Yes, please. That's why I'm saying that it's spanned over the years. We don't have all the details of the information, but then the auditors reached out to the clients for them to confirm, and they failed to confirm. So that was why those amounts were rejected.
I'll invite the auditors to throw light on this particular issue here.
Yeah, that is it.
Before you come in, Madam, are you privy to the reports?
Yes, please.
So have you looked at the reports for your ministry?
Yes, please.
And page 186, point number A, what did the auditors put there?
That relates to BTAs. It says the amount relates to BTAs for which actual expenditure has not occurred. For that one, in a course of operation, you normally process documents on
No, I just want you to read the whole thing that the auditors wrote in the reports.
The amounts relates to BTAs for which actual expenditure had not occurred as of 31st December 2024. They were requested for funds to carry out activities. As the funds were not disbursed, the activities were not undertaken. As such, the amounts are not payable and are hence rejected.
So this long story that you are telling us and what the auditors have written here, how do you reconcile the two?
For that one, they are right.
So then, if the auditors are right, then what explanation are you giving us that is different from what the auditors have written here?
Please,
you have confirmed that what the auditors have put here is correct. My colleague asked you about the difference, the amounts rejected, the 398. The auditors are saying that this was for a particular activity. The activity wasn't carried out, so they are rejecting it. And then you are here given a different explanation. Did you go through the exit conference with the auditors, please? Did your ministry go through an exit conference with the auditors?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, the explanation she's given is this, that for the specific vehicles she has mentioned, each of them has a debt line for us to pay.
So, Minister,
yes.
well, that's another issue.
Yes.
But what we are asking is on page 186. And on page 186, the auditors say that Ministry of Finance, as per the details, gave 46.2 million as your outstanding claims and arrears. And the amount that was validated was 44.8 million. And so there's a difference of 398,000. And the auditors are saying that the 398,000 was for activities that should have been carried out, that was not carried out. So they have rejected that amount of 398,000. That is what the auditors have written here. That's why I asked you whether you were privy to the reports. The auditors, please, did you have an exit conference with the Ministry of Labor on this?
Yes, Honorable Chair, we had a meeting to discuss that. There was even a general meeting at the Ministry of Finance to discuss the findings of our work. I think that she was trying to respond to a question that has not been asked. Yes. Yes.
That's why I asked whether she was privy to the reports, because she's answering a different question on another page that she hasn't been asked. It's for Honorable Kinney to ask that question. But she is not speaking to the one on page 186. Honorable Day's question is on page 186, and she's asking of the 398,000 Ghana cedis that was rejected. Maybe you can throw more light on the activities that you were supposed to carry out that you did not carry out. That based on that, the auditors are saying that you cannot claim that amount of money.
Yeah, for that, for the 398,000, it was for our agencies. My mind was focused on what pertains to the ministry, but I can answer to it. There were activities that were supposed to happen during the course of the year. There were some activities that were supposed to happen. So PVs were raised on them. So that resulted in the BTAs that we had. But because those activities had not actually happened, so then at the end of the year, because they didn't release the money, then the activities were not going to happen again. So when we met with the auditors, they said these ones have been rejected, and we agreed to it that yes, because the activities had not taken place, we agreed that it has been rejected.
Thank you for the intervention. I want to accept the fact that you also have come to terms with the fact that since these are activities that are not taking place, they are not a charge on government. Is that the case?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. But there is still some 1 million that needs...
Still on the case. So if the activities were not carried out, how did it get to the BTA stage?
The activities were supposed to have been carried out, but then we raised the PVs on the system, expecting to receive the cash to be able to carry out the activities.
You know, when you talk of a bank transfer advice, it means it's going to controller, and controller is going to release the money. So that if controller had released the money, controller would have paid you for no work done. Because once it gets to the bank transfer advice stage, it means that one, it's been done, and you are effecting payment. Auditors, is that the case? Once an activity gets to the bank transfer advice stage, it's with controller, and controller is going to effect payment of the money. Is that not the case?
Yes, at that level, the assumption is that you would have executed the transaction, the SRA invoices and other things would have been attached for approval to the level of the BTAs. So if you don't have all of that, and then there is a BTA raised, then there is an issue. But I think that either the Ministry of Finance or Controller, but one of them talked about the fact that sometimes the entities want to commit the government before they miss out on the fund. And so some of these PVs and transactions will be done on the system, whereas the actual activity had not taken place, yes, which should not be the case. Thank you.
Madam.
So, one minute, sir. So you said that before it gets to the BTA stage, you have all your invoices and everything. So if the activities haven't been carried out, how are you able to attach invoices and all the relevant documents that should enable the transaction to get to the BTA stage?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, as I'm sitting down, we have a program at Ho. We are going to Ho. We have to be paid per diems, allowances, the conference, and all that. So we have processed it on GIVMIS. The activity has not taken place, but we have processed it on GIVMIS, expecting that the funds will be released for us to execute that transaction. So this is some of it. Currently, we are going because the funds have not been released. But if it has been released, we will take the cash and go there and go and do payments. So it's not everything that we have SRE, invoices and all that. There are some we need the cash to move. So for training purposes, at times the cash is, we process, cash is released, then we engage the activity.
Then we have a big problem too at Controller and Accountant General. Because if you don't have all the attached documents, yet you allow activities or invoices to get to the BTA stage without the relevant documents, then we also have a big problem. So we should find a way to do things right moving forward. Not from your end alone, but from Ministry of Finance, from the Controller and Accountant General, and the various ministries, departments, and agencies as well. Ranking, please, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much. What activity were you supposed to perform in 2024 that you did not perform, but the PVs have already gone to the BTA stage? What activity was that?
Mr. Chair, they were for training.
Training? What
Yeah.
kind of training?
There are times maybe we want to prepare, train our people.
No, I'm looking for that specific activity. I know that sometimes you do that. You do. What particular activity was supposed to have happened that did not happen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of these activities, for example, in our case, for which 265,300 was rejected, was an outstanding budget for end-of-year regional directors workshop and training. Because we do not have the lines that much, we put these things together, named workshops and training. So it is captured like a workshop and a training to review the year, the end of activities of the year. We process our, as she said, we process our documents, hoping to have funds because we cannot pre-finance. And unfortunately, it was not released. And when we met our Ministry of Finance, they told us because the activity was not carried, we couldn't have gone ahead. And we left thinking that was the end.
All right, Honorable.
Thank you. There's still some 1 million difference between what can be traced to the Ministry of Labor and the Ministry of Finance. Are you privy to that in the report as well? And what do you have to say about the 1 million plus that is still an issue to be reconciled between yourselves and then the Ministry of Finance?
I can speak not to the total, but those are some of the things that I started initially, that we had a supply of Nissan Tida the price adjustment, about 1,034,000, yes. That is the one I started talking about initially.
I think I'll reserve, I'll default, I'll actually pass that question to my colleague who would ask specifically on the 1 million. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Kinney, please.
Thank you, Chair. Ministry of Labor. This infraction has to do with quantum of arrears, payables, and commitment. There was these transactions before Ministry of Finance that your ministry claims they were not aware of. And this includes the supply of 2 Nissan Tidal saloon cars, price adjustment of 2 units Toyota Hilux automatic pickups, supply of 2 number 2.5 horsepower air conditioners, expansion of Fair Wages and Salary Commission building at Laboni. All this amounted to 1,034,000 Ghana cedis. What is the status about this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Nissan Tida was bought in 2011 when we were then Ministry of Social Welfare. Currently, those vehicles are not even available. The ministry, as we stand now, we don't have enough documentations on it. So when the auditors came, we made them aware that we don't have enough documentations on this. For the price adjustments of the pickup, that is Sterling Automotive. They have been paid, but then they are saying that there was delay in payment. So they computed some interest for us to pay, of which Ministry of Finance was made aware of. The 2 horsepower air conditioning too, we don't have enough documentations on it. So we told the auditors, as we stand, we don't have enough documentations on them. So they reached out to those institutions, but then the institutions also didn't respond to what the auditors raised. For the last one, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, they are building, the cost for the completion of the building was a 5.1 million. The 4.3 million was work certified. And so because they were work certified, the auditors agreed to it. But then the remaining amount is work yet to be done. So they were rejected. And we all agreed to it that because it's work yet to be done, we agreed for it to be rejected.
With regards to the price adjustment by Sterling Motors, you were asked to pay a penalty for not paying at the required time. What accounted for the delay, and what have you done so far about that?
Mr. Chair, all those things happened when we were not there. But then, so we can't speak specifically to what happened at that time. But what we know right now is that Sterling Motors was reached out to. They were reached out to so that they can confirm. If they had confirmed that, yes, we owe them this amount, we would have gone into it to find out what actually transpired, what can happen. But they didn't confirm it, meaning that they have waived it off. So we didn't even...
No. Madam, you can't say that just because somebody did not respond, it means the cost has been, waived off. Those 2 vehicles, does the ministry still have those 2 vehicles?
No, please.
No, please.
No.
And no records of it?
Chief, it was in 2011.
It doesn't matter whether it's 2011 or
That is what I'm saying.
1901. Do you have records of it at your ministry?
No, we don't.
Chair, then the Chair.
So if you don't have records, how were you able to compile them and give to a Ministry of Finance as outstanding claims and arrears? If you don't have records of these things, how were you able to compile them and hand over as monies that are due you that government should go ahead and pay to you?
Mr. Chair, we didn't give this information to Minister of Finance.
When you come and sit here, you don't speak in your own capacity. You speak in the capacity of the Ministry of Labor. So if you say we, are you saying that Ministry of Labor did not give this documentation to Ministry of Finance, and that Ministry of Finance on their own produced it on your behalf?
As at the year end 2024, we didn't give this information to Ministry of Finance, but we were assuming that maybe this Ministry of Finance already had this information from prior period. But as at the year end 2024,
so you are saying Ministry of Finance submitted this on your behalf without your knowledge, without your input?
No, this is without our input. As at the time we were supposed to meet the auditors, we didn't provide this information. And the document also says that claims totaling 1 million in the Ministry of Finance could not be traced to our schedule.
Yes, said they noted the variance, and you indicated that you were not aware of this transaction, but you are sitting here explaining the transaction. That's why I always ask you, did you read the report first before answering the question? Because from your end, you said you were not aware of the transaction, but you are here explaining it away. And then when it gets to a point, you say you were not there. So as we sit here, Ministry of Finance submitted these documents as arrears or outstanding claims to for Ministry of Labor without your inputs, without your knowledge.
Mr. Chair, that's what I'm saying.
That's what you are saying.
As at the time,
as at the time they were submitting.
2024, we didn't submit it, but it's supposed that it presupposes that Ministry of Finance already had this information prior to 2024.
Can we say that Ministry of Finance, without the knowledge of Ministry of Labor, went ahead to submit all outstandings and claims they were holding in the name of Ministry of Labor without their knowledge? That is what you are saying. And that is how come you are saying that you people cannot, when I say, I mean Ministry of Labor, cannot explain, are not aware of the transactions to the tune of 1,034,000 Ghana cedis. At least that is what the audit report says.
Mr. Chair, I said I was able to explain the 764, that there are works that fair wages is yet to do. So that one was excluded because we are looking at outstandings.
And that one, did you send it to Ministry of Finance?
Yes, fair wages gave that information to Ministry of Finance.
But the 764,000 is part of the 134 million. According to your auditors, you said that you were not aware of these transactions.
No, that one, I think it was added, but then that one, fair wages gave to Ministry of Finance. So that one, we are very much aware of it. It is work to be done.
So, Madam, I beg you, go to 187 and read the comments from the auditors for me.
The recommendation of the first one.
Where it starts with a comparison of the schedule of arrears and commitments.
A comparison of the schedule of arrears and commitments from the Ministry of Finance and that obtained from the Ministry of Labor, Jobs and Employment, we noted a variance of 1,034,042 Ghana cedis between the two schedules obtained. The ministry indicated that they were not aware of these transactions.
Any there. So this is where I'm coming from. The ministry indicated that they were not aware of these transactions. At least that is what the auditors have here. I'll end it here.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Madam, you said you were not aware of these transactions. But in the instant case of the Nizan Tides, you were able to tell the committee that a 40% of that amount was paid. And that subsequent to the auditors making verification with the suppliers, we could not find the 60%, and that is where you agreed to the rejection. If you did not include this, how did you get to know that 40% of this amount was paid? And upon what document did you verify the 40% from?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What happened was, when we received this, we saw this one by the auditors, we reached out. After the auditors have finished and we were supposed to come here, we reached out to the Japan Motors and other people to give us, for us to get information as to what transpired. And that is how come we got some information on them. We got some photocopies, but then we don't have actual documentations. You see, we are talking about outstandings to be paid. We can't just use any photocopy that somebody has given you to confirm that this is supposed to be paid. We need documents, real invoices and things to be paid. So if we don't have them, we can't just say that these are outstandings and they are credible, so validated, we should pay. We don't have them. These are some photocopies that we got, and that speaks to the issues. But as to documentations, as in the originals, for us to put before for payment to be done, we don't have them.
Mr. Chair, yes, I would agree with you that you reached out, but you had the cars in your custody and it was being used by the ministry. Either was it social welfare or the cars were in the custody of the ministry. No matter how the name has changed, they had that. And you presume and know that those cars were bought by the ministry at whatever time and it was used. And now they came with this claim. If the ministry did not have and you did not present, and you reached out to the agencies and they produced to you documentations that would have even changed the valuation of these vehicles, and they affirmed to those. And now, if those documentations that they've given to you, they put a claim on that and institute an action of reclaiming those amounts, would you say that because you do not have documentations to them and because they are photocopies, we hold no liability to pay those amounts? And this justification you can give to anybody who is adjudicating on the matter for it to sound to that person?
Honorable, no. Mr. Chair, no. It's like these are claims. The auditors have come. They want documents to affirm that we owe this amount. And we couldn't give them the actual documents to affirm that we owe this amount. That is all that I'm saying.
But you know that auditors cannot generate these documents of claims. They are only to verify actual documentations that comes to them. So it's one way or the other. It may have come from a person who believes that these documentations are original. And these documentations, bear you in mind, that the auditors verified did not come from the supplier, CFAO. It came from government, either the ministry or the Ministry of Finance. You spoke eloquently to the part payment of it, but now you claim that the documents cannot be ascertained to be documents that you can rely on, and therefore that is why you rejected those. All right.
Yeah. The auditors recommended that you embark on timely reconciliation with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that there is consistency in payables and arrears. Has that been done?
For those activities, we met at Ministry of Finance, and the auditors rejected them with Ministry of Finance, and that was how that one was ended. But then subsequently, we making sure that any documents that happens on any purchases or things, we make sure that we reach out to Ministry of Finance to get for us to be on the same page, that is reconcile for payments to be done.
So are you assuring this committee that you will not be brought here again on the same infraction?
I pray so.
They'll be here, don't worry.
Mr. Chairman, 1 minute. So, Madam, these are assets that you claim you have no knowledge or you don't know if they are there. So how do you now keep your assets? How do you protect your assets so that tomorrow, after spending public funds on vehicles, we don't have officers from the ministry coming to sit here to say that they are not aware, they cannot trace the equipment or the assets that public funds have gone into? So please,
Madam,
let us know.
we have the fixed assets coordinating unit. Now, they are the ones that are actually guarding the assets of the ministry. So, but in the future, maybe I might not be there, so I can't say anything for it. But currently, the fixed assets coordinating unit is ensuring that the assets are there. They have everything about the assets. We have information on them. Currently, that's what the fixed assets coordinating unit is doing. But for the future, I can't say.
I'm not talking about the future. I'm talking about what you are doing currently to prevent such an occurrence from happening again. We'll be happy to have a copy of your fixed assets register to see whether all your assets have been duly captured as you are supposed to. Thank you.
Madam, we have a copy, but it's the bulk of it, but we can give the committee because it's in the soft copy. We can give the committee.
Well, the committee has requested for a copy, and so we will have to look at it. Yes, Doctor.
Madam, that her last response just pricked me. So you have an asset register, and yet you don't have record of those Nissan vehicles. Is that the case? How do you reconcile that? What do you really have in the asset register?
Mr. Chair, this is 2011. So even if it were to be in the fixed assets register, it might have been depreciated and it might have been taken off already.
Okay, so madam, in the register, do you have records of assets way back as 2011 or latest 2020? How do you, what is the time frame within which your asset register records hold?
You know, currently on GIFMIS, so that is where we can take it from. Currently on GIFMIS, all the assets, the moment you buy it, it is registered on GIFMIS. So that is how come we are able to trace it.
So in your specific case, what's the time frame that you have? What was the last date that your last asset was put in there? Do you have?
I think.
In other words, what is the date? What time period do you have your assets in that record? Is it from 2020 to date? Is it from 2018 to date? What is the time period?
I think the last one might be 2024 because we bought a bus. So then that is the last one that I can remember off my head, that we recorded the bus that was purchased into it. But aside that, I can't go back unless maybe I check and tell you. But then if I give you the assets register, it might be there.
So, Madam, I want to verify this from you. In all this, the agents that you actually purchase the item from, there is no communique from them to you, your outfit, that you are owing them.
That is what I'm saying, that after the auditors wrote to Japan Motors, that this is it. They didn't respond to Japan Motors, but then they wrote to the ministry telling us that we owe them this amount. And so that is where now we are taking it from.
Japan Motors wrote to the ministry that you are owing them.
Yes.
So all along, there's no communication between you and them for a long time that you are owing them. No communication until the auditors came in.
I believe there might have been some communications. But what
Madam, here is a situation where you cannot trace the assets, yet they are telling you owe them. You are telling us you can't trace the assets. And since 2011, but yet you're saying they have written to the ministry saying that the ministry owes them some money. Yet the assets for which, they are claiming the money, the ministry is telling us that they don't have records, they can't find it. How do you reconcile the two?
I'm speaking. Madam, the issue is, I was in the ministry in 2023. Japan Motors didn't write to us. 2024, they didn't write to us. It is 2025 when the auditors wrote to them to confirm it, and they wrote to the ministry. Going through records, I realized that in 2018, a director wrote to them that they should give information on it. They never gave. So,
Madam, my issue is not Japan Motors writing to you. My issue is, where is the assets on which they are laying that claim on? That's all I'm asking.
The assets is not in the ministry.
So if it's not in the ministry, and then you sit here and say they have written to you, and so now it's a charge, it is something that we should look into. I don't really understand. They are laying a claim on an asset which they say they have sold to you. We cannot find the assets. So then how do we confidently say that in 2018, the ministry wrote they did not respond to us. It is now that they have written, so there's a charge or a claim on government to come and pay some outstandings. But meanwhile, the assets on which the outstandings are being, the outstandings are being made or claimed for, we cannot find them. Minister, you have a lot to do at your ministry. You have to get to the bottom of this issue. Japan Motors, according to your finance director, is saying that you owe them, based on a certain asset that was purchased, the vehicle that was purchased. The same finance director is telling us that they cannot find, they don't know the whereabouts of this asset. Respectfully, you have to get to the bottom of this to help us bring some finality to this issue.
Thank you. The challenge I notice is that the ministry over the years has transformed severally. Agencies that used to be with the ministry have been taken away, and they took away particulars that could be referenced to these things we are talking about. For example, social welfare, where the vehicles were sent, is no longer with us. So I think that we would need to go back to history, or that we may have to refer some of the issues to the specific ministries that are now relevant to the questions. Yeah.
Two questions. Apart from the minister, the gentleman who accompanied the lady, do you have anything to say about what we are questioning here about?
Yes. For example, when the auditors queried the Japan Motors about what we owe them, they didn't reply to them at all. And once they didn't reply, Japan Motors, the auditors will assume that these are records that cannot have bearings. And so they categorize them as maybe as false information that we say we owe and didn't owe.
No.
It was incumbent upon Japan Motors itself to reply. Sorry,
Minister,
Japan, yes.
The auditors did not classify it as false information. What the auditors said was that this has been included in the amounts to be justified before payment. So the auditors did not exclude this, but they are saying that come and justify this amount. And based on the justification, they will pay. So in the books, it is still outstanding, but the auditors are asking you to come and justify. And you can justify with the assets and relevant documentation to that asset. That is it. So it is still in the books, and they want justification. Once the justification is completed, payments can go on.
Honorable Minister, I was asking the other gentleman who came with you.
Oh, okay.
Do they have anything to say about what the accounts lady is talking about?
Honorable Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity. I don't know whether it is specific to the vehicles or
yes, specific to the vehicle.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Yes, sir.
No, no, Minister.
You don't have anything to say. Chief Director, you don't know anything about it. Okay. Yes, sir. The gentleman on the right.
No, Chairman, these are issues pertaining to the main ministry, not the other agencies. So
which then ministry?
The main ministry.
The main ministry.
No, so
you don't know anything about it. Madam, has anybody asked Japan Motors whom they supposedly sell the vehicles to?
Mr. Chair, that is what I was saying, that one director actually reached out to Japan Motors, but then for documentations and anything, we didn't get it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Let's move
on the basis of this answer, Madam, what would have been the basis for a director to write to Japan Motors inquiring about our outstanding bills with them. If the director was not of any opinion that indeed there are assets that we have, there is a payment that we have seen being made of 40%, and therefore an outstanding liability that we ought to pay, because it will flow from that. That is why that liability will still be lingering on the books and be sent to the Ministry of Finance for verification for payment. Because the letter you claim was written by a director of the ministry to the agency asking for the outstanding balance. So it means that there is a certain admission that these things were there. So today we are being told that these things, the assets are not with the agency. Are there any documentations on the disposal of those assets that you cited? Because you know that these assets came. Are there any documentations that you cited on the disposal of these assets?
No, please.
So where are the cards? There are no documentations to disposal. You can't obviously say conclusively as to where the assets are.
Mr. Chair, that is why I started by saying that we started this state. This was a vehicle under the Ministry of Social Welfare under LIP. Time has passed, and it was under LIP. So there has been time, almost all the directors there now.
Madam, I understand you perfectly. But this is not our personal vehicles where you can dispose of or you can put away easily. Usually when it's a public vehicle, there are processes. So we are asking, let us trace where the vehicle is, because Japan Motors is laying claim that you owe them based on the vehicles that we bought. And we are asking that, so where are the vehicles, or where is the vehicle? Show us where it is. You don't know where it is. Did we dispose that vehicle off? If we did, what is the process? Where are the documentation? So we need to find an answer to this. So, Minister, we cannot do it here. And we ask that as you go, you look into this and help us know exactly where the vehicle is, whether it's still in the books of the agency that took hold of it, or it's been disposed of, and how it was disposed of. That's all, Minister. But we need to get to the bottom of this issue, because this is a vehicle. It's a public vehicle. It cannot just vanish. Yet we are being asked to come and pay outstandings on it. The director here confirmed that already you have paid 40% on that amount, on the vehicle. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, let me thank you very much. I already said that because the agency in question is no longer with the ministry, we will trace to check historical records and get back to you once we get the required information. And so we will make sure this is properly aligned. Thank you.
Minister, because of the way things have gone and then your time and then busy schedule, is it feasible to recommend that IOCO come in and do the needful? IOCO to do the needful so that we unravel where the vehicles are.
Well, but I'm surprised you are asking for IOCO in a situation where there is no pointed issue on crime. I mean, this is simply non-alignment of expenditures and assets. The asset indicated, we are indicating that the social welfare institution or organization which was with us is no longer with us, it's now with the gender ministry. So if you are asking for issues and we are telling you the issues are we don't have records on it, it's simply to say, like the chairman has said, let's trace up to where it is and then come back and give records. IOCO, what will IOCO be doing? There's no issue of crime here. It's just non-alignment. The records are there, but they are not with us. They may be with the social welfare, which is easy for us to go and check. Or we could simply say that, well, this question is no longer with us because it's now with another ministry. We could have replied that way. But it's important for us to come here because we were invited. Yeah.
At the time of the audit, was social welfare part of this ministry?
Yes, it was.
So at the time of the 2024, social welfare was part of this ministry.
2024. No, 2024 it was not. 2011. He's talking about 2011 when the vehicles were bought.
No, I'm talking about at the time of the audit.
No.
Now, auditors, if social welfare was not part of this ministry, why wouldn't this audit go under Ministry of Gender?
Honorable Chair, per the information we got from the Ministry of Finance, these particular transactions were captured under the current Ministry of
Labor.
Jobs, yes.
2011. It was under Labor then.
No, we did the audit in 2025. We were to validate those liabilities that were submitted to the Ministry of Finance. Now, the transaction in question was captured in the Ministry of Finance schedule that was provided under
their ministry.
Their ministry, yes.
So, Honorable Minister, this was captured under your ministry. That was sent to Ministry of Finance. It wasn't Gender who sent it.
Oh, I'm simply saying because of the transition, the movement, they may have carried the information to that ministry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but we will check. If indeed there is something wrong, we will definitely come back and report that there is something wrong. And my brother's Yoko issue can now come in.
So please, Madam, let's find out what happened. Let's find out where the vehicles are. It is true that we may have bought the vehicles in 2011, but then the vehicles would have ended somewhere. Either it was auctioned during the period or whatever it is. What happened to the money? We need to get to the bottom. We need to get to the bottom of it. Okay, now let's go to the next question. Honorable Hetoje will handle that one.
Yeah, so, Madam, we'll be happy to have a copy of your fixed assets register. So you, no, not today, but you provide the committee with it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, with respect, Madam gave an explanation in terms of fair wages, and as fair wages is here, he said an amount of 700 was declined on the basis that those works were not done, and those were in 2024. So if you can tell us the status of the work for which that rejection was done, whether it's been completed, the full work has been completed or not, that from the basis upon the rejection is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, to the best of my knowledge, that work has not been done and is not going to be done. We've not requested for payment, and so it's not part of it.
So that, and wouldn't that work not being done affect the expansion project that was being undertaken at the fair wages?
No, Mr. Chairman, from our records, ECG indicated that we needed a separate transformer from the community. And so the contractor added a transformer to this. But now that is not the case, so it's not going to be done.
And are you comfortable working without the transformer? As per the recommendation of ECG, you needed a transformer, and now that has been taken out. Wouldn't that affect your operationalization?
ECG provided us the transformer.
Oh, themselves, so you are not paying for it again?
No.
And they are not going to bring any bill again? No. All right. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. This infraction has to do with long-standing payments amounting to 269,842. The auditors identified 3 long outstanding transactions totaling 269,842, ranging from 3 to 12 years in the Ministry of Finance schedule, but not in
the Ministry of Labor, Job and Employment schedule. What contributed to this?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it is the same issues that we were discussing earlier in connection with those vehicles. The price adjustment by Sterling Automobile and the Nissan Tida vehicles. Because, like I'm saying, we don't have those documentations. We didn't raise it to Ministry of Finance. But then maybe over the years, Ministry of Finance already had this information, and that is how come they have escalated it. But we don't have those information. That is why. Thank you.
All right. Then the other issue has to do with BTA amounting to 37.4 million paid after 2024 year end. They say out of the total BTAs validated amounting to 39,396.279, the auditors noted that BTA number 719554 amounting to 37,399.686 relating to pending payment to the Youth Employment Agency as at 31st December 2024 has been paid after the year end by the Ministry of Labor, Job and Employment in February and March 2025. Why that respond?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the YAA is no more under the ministry. So, but then as at that time, their transactions have been processed under the ministry, and then the BTAs had come. So we had to pay them. But then they are currently no more under the ministry, so we can't speak for them unless they themselves come to speak.
Mr. Chairman, this alignment and non-alignment is troubling. And we are catching the people who are not supposed to be caught.
You see, Madam, since this special audit, have you made, okay, let me rephrase my question. There's a recommendation by the auditors, and I'm sure you've read it. The Ministry of Labor should designate an officer within the Finance Department to regularly update and review the aging analysis, regular reconciliation of outstanding balances between departments and suppliers and contractors should be conducted in order to validate the accuracy of aging analysis and resolve discrepancies earlier. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
What have you done about it?
I have to come back to the give me again. Currently, the way the system works, we are not supposed to even have outstandings by the end of the year.
Then why are we having outstandings?
Normally, when we have outstandings at the end of the year, we charge it to the following year's budget. It becomes the first call on the following year's budget. So what we're discussing right now would have been, if some of them would have been the first call on the 2025 budget. But because the auditors picked them so those things were not done. That is why we are discussing them right now. Finance does not even allow us now to have outstandings. If we have outstandings, it goes against your budget the following year. So the recommendation of the auditors, yes, but the institutions themselves are working on it, because the moment you know you have outstandings and it can't be paid, your next year's budget, that is the first call on it. Thank you.
Minister.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I guess we've come to the end of this, but I know that you'll be back next year. This year. Because I'm not comfortable about the accounting department. I just can't put my finger on it. But I know when you come back, we'll discuss it. Your ministry, because of finance, you are discharged.
Mr. Chairman, let me thank you for this process, and we are grateful for what has happened. And the outstanding issues we have to bring to your notice, we definitely will honor and bring them. And we'll be much more up and doing to make sure the accounts department works to the best of our expectations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. May we call Minister of Foreign Affairs, please?
Yes.
The evidence I shall give before this committee, touching the matter and issue, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. We're doing the back? Yeah. We done?
Please introduce yourself to the committee.
Good morning once again, and thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. I'd like to introduce my team here. We start from the very far left. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kwaku Ofosu-Asare, Director of Procurement.
Good morning. My name is Solomon Akwa, Director of Inspectorate and Internal Audit Bureau.
Good morning. My name is Ambassador Khadija Idrisu, Chief Director.
Good morning. My name is Lambert Suglo, Director of Finance and Accounts.
Good morning. My name is Bafoche, the former Director of Finance and Accounts, now Deputy Controller Accountant General.
Good morning, Chair. I think we already did introduction, but once more, the Member of Parliament for the good people of Ascent North and Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. I have here my very capable team, and they are ready to give the most appropriate responses for all the supposedly infractions. Thank you.
188 million. Out of this, 180 million was validated and 7420 was rejected.
Yes. From this, you submitted 47.9 million Ghana cedis to Ministry of Finance for them to submit to the auditors for validation. Out of this, 3.4 million, which was already settled, was added to the 47.9 for BTA, that's bank transfer advice. Explain to us why this figure was re-added, while it has been settled already.
Thank you. We will yield that question to my Chief Director.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. This amount from the auditor's report indicated that it was paid from allocated funds. So once it was paid from government allocated funds, it was deemed to have been settled, and there wasn't any further request. There shouldn't have been any further request for release of funds. However, I may want to state here that this amount that was used for the payment of utility bills was indeed paid from committed government funds. We had to pay this amount out of the committed government funds, committed because they were committed in the budget for other purposes, for other payment for other goods and services. But because the utility companies were threatening disconnection, out of good judgment, management decided that let us use this amount that was earmarked for our rental payments in our missions abroad to quickly plug in, with the hope that once we had processed through the GiveMix system payments for these utilities, once we get it, we could plug in back. But this was not the case. As we speak now, these missions are still in arrears of rent. And we accordingly would indicate to the chair that as a matter of agency, we need to get the money to pay the rent to save the image of the country. Thank you very much.
Yeah. In taking that decision, you needed to seek advice or clarification from Ministry of Finance. Did you do that?
No, we didn't get back to Ministry of Finance because we had already processed it. We knew it was a matter of a week or so, and quickly it was going to be released because the BTAs were already prepared, but we didn't go back to them.
So this is a misapplication of fund. And then you know the consequences. When you misapply funds, the consequences per the PMF Act. So what are you telling us? Now that you have misapplied it, because you were saying you didn't know the money will keep that long. So you were just trying to do an intervention so that when the money comes, you plug in the money. And here is the case. It has taken days, it has taken months, and the money has not been paid. So who is supposed to be blamed? And this is the main reason why you should have sought permission from the Ministry of Finance before doing that. So you have clearly violated the law. So advise us what we should tell the Attorney General.
Actually, because it's goods and services, we thought that at management level we could actually have handled that. You know, we didn't know that it's needed to go to Ministry of Finance.
Yeah, so Chief Director.
You are coming, okay.
Chief Director, any time there is a budget attached to various activities, if you want to veer from any activity, you need to seek permission. Because Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not an island on their own. You must seek permission. And for not doing that, I mean, you are infringing on the PFM Act. And then that's not right.
Well noted, sir. And going forward, we shall do the needful.
Yes, okay.
Chair, thank you very much. Madam Ambassador, you said the amount was for rent of our missions abroad, and that amount was used to pay for ECG bills. Is it for the ministry, ECG bill, is it for the ministry? That is about 3-point-something million as we see. Was it only bills for the ministry?
Yes, there were bills for the ministry at different times.
So the 3 million was for which period? Because we are looking at over 3 million Ghana cedis in terms of the bills that were paid.
It is in two settlements. One of them was 589,000, and one of them was 2.8. It was for a long period that the bill was not paid.
A long period.
So it was a cumulative bill they brought. So we have the payment schedule here. It wasn't paid once at 3.4 million. There's several payments that added up to the 3.40 million. So
the BTA dates are all in 2024. Am I right?
Yes, please.
Yes. So which period do these BTAs cover? Because we are looking at payments in 1 year for amount of 3.4 million Ghana cedis. And it says for a very long period. Because if you are looking at 3 million Ghana cedis in terms of ECG bills, these are huge. And if it's for the ministry alone, then these are huge figures. Whilst trying to do that, madam, we are looking at a rejected amount of 7 million. We are looking at a rejected amount of 7.4 million. And we are looking at the payment out of that 7.4 million that you'd want to justify as 3.4 million for bills. So the difference between those two, what is accounting for that rejection?
Mr. Chair, we also have 377,908 in respect of construction of Nigerian High Commission, which was also rejected. This came about for the same reason. If you may recall, there was an issue where the Nigerian High Commission building was pulled down by some unidentified persons, and it became an international issue. They also had to go to our missions in Abuja and Lagos, trying to take over our properties, and there were a lot of back and forth. And the government then decided that in line with the international best practice, we have to restore the building. So the time that we put in the amount for the release, that was when the trouble started. It wasn't coming, and we had to quickly find money again to pay. And this money was also committed funds earmarked for our missions in Riyadh, New York, Lomé, Berlin, and Rabat for their residential furniture and then vehicles. As we speak now, honorables, those of you who might have visited our missions, I know each time you travel, you try to make time to visit our missions. You know that they are very often, when it comes to some of these things, to come with vehicles and their office furniture and that of their homes. And it's still the case, because we need to plug in the money back to make sure that they procure these items that the funds were earmarked to do. Thank you.
Madam, how would the directive by the state, if I may put it that way, to restore a property that was demolished not be catered for in terms of finances? Because he said when the Nigerian High Commission building was pulled down, it was directed that we restore that. How would that not be accounted for? And that would require that you use your goods and services to go and pay for that? Who
And
awarded the contract?
Budgeted. It was budgeted for. So the ministry had actually put in requests for release of funds. It was again due to the delay. That is why, and to safeguard the situation, lives and properties, we had to quickly take this quick decision to plug in that money, so that with the hope that it will be returned to us to be used for the purpose for which it was budgeted.
Madam, let me ask this. In taking the decision, you see, when they wanted to take over our property in Nigeria, it was therefore prudent for you to pay for the one in Ghana. But when you are dealing with ECG in Ghana, and you are dealing with a foreign property owner that houses our missions abroad, how then do you go about taking that decision to pay locally and leave our missions rent outstanding? Assuming that after leaving, those rent expired and we did not pay, and they were asked to move out of those missions that you failed to pay the rent for, without seeking proper authorization, but ended up paying the rent, the light bills in Ghana, what would have been the consequences putting those two together? And I think, let us not base that on late releases for ECG bills, but you made a decision when you had funds to pay the rent, but you paid the ECG bills. What would have been the consequences, and upon what basis did you take these decisions?
At the time we were paying, the rents were not due then. So we were hopeful that by the time the rents became due, the money too would have been released. However, we have very good relations with the tenants because we have been very good tenants. So they got to understand that it was just due to circumstances beyond our control. So we're fine at that, but we don't have to overstretch it. We need to keep that sound relations going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Those electricity.
Chair,
Yes,
sorry.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I just wanted to add a little. You see, this has been a very prudent practice. If you're looking at the submission our CD is presenting right now, it was based on urgency, lack of resources, monies that were not coming to the ministry at the appropriate timing.
Minister.
The finance minister.
With respect, Minister.
Yes.
I think we probably would have left it where the chief director may have, because the decisions that she took and the justifications, if not for anything at all, probably you may not accept, but if we move on the tangent of lack of releases and that, there were money meant for something. All that you needed to do was to chase the money meant for the other. You took a decision. We may accept it for now. If you don't leave it here, we overstretch. We probably may have to go into the matter well, and that will become another issue. So with all respect, if we may leave it there and continue, I think probably it will be helpful.
Thank you for your advice. And I think I'm glad, and I also appreciate that you have accepted her explanation for that matter. Thank you.
Yeah, so Madam Chief Director, my follow-up with regards to that is, those who broke the Nigeria building, is it a company or individual involved? And how would they, cause that harm to a foreign mission property, and you expect the state to be paying for that? I want to understand that.
Mr. Chair, this was a presidential decision, and in line with international law and the Vienna Convention, we just have to do so. You know, it's within the law to do so, to make sure that there were hooligans. We couldn't put our hands that this is the fellow who did that, so that the fellow could be, taken to court or anything. They said it was demolished by hooligans, so.
At the embassy, they don't have any CCTV camera or anything to actually avert those who actually damaged the building.
During the time, they had constituted a committee involving national security, the police, and all that. So it was out of their reports that that decision was taken by the government to pay. So they did all that. They did all that, but came to that conclusion that it has to be restored. Thank you.
So the electricity bill in 2024 that created this, was the money ever paid by the government at that time?
We are still pursuing payment, Chair.
Yes. There are questions. Director, again, your outfit submitted 377,508 Ghana cedis as commitment and 3,641,000 as claims for validation by the Auditor General. Meanwhile, these monies have been paid already. Why were they resubmitted to the Ministry of Finance?
Thank you, Chair. As I indicated earlier, these are all committed funds that are needed to be paid. Looking at, we paid Addis Ababa Mission, we owe them for the construction of our Chancery building. It's the contract sum in US dollars because it's out of our jurisdiction of 1,747,729.48. So this amount was validated by the auditors. However, they had an issue to do with the exchange rate at the time. At the time of requesting the release, the ministry used an exchange rate of 15.25 USD to $1. But let me, so making them reject 2,638,910.18 as part of the amount you've just quoted. They are putting them all together is what we've just quoted. But what we said was that normally we do that, but at the point of releasing the amount, Ministry of Finance will always use the exchange rate of the day. So you wouldn't be having this money that they are rejecting going forward. And then we also had undertaken the renovation of the residence of our ambassador in Paris. And we had additional works carried out to the tune of euros 589,772.00. And they rejected about, in Ghana cedis, 794,170.00. That is equivalent of 50,000 US dollars. Euros was rejected. And what we are here to do today is to prove that indeed we still owe the contractor. Because out of this amount of 589,772 euros, we had, the ministry had a payment schedule with the contractor. Unfortunately, we were not able to follow through with the payment. We had agreed on installments payments, 300,000 first installment euros, second installment, and we paid the first installment of 300,000 euros. The second installment, we were supposed to have paid 150,000 euros. However, we were unable to do so, so we paid 100,000. So, and leaving 50,000. So the third installment, we paid, we were supposed to have paid 125, we paid 125. Then the third installment, we're supposed to have paid 14,772.20 euros. That one we didn't pay. So now we owe the contractor to the tune of 64,000 euros, 772.20. And we have the documents to support that indeed this amount is still outstanding. So we'll be handing over the documents regarding the payments made so far.
Yeah, Director, noted. So your claim is that you still owe the contractors?
Yes, sir.
But the stance of the auditors is that these monies have been fully paid and the work has completed.
Yes, sir.
So auditors, where are they? Yes, this is what Director is telling us. So how do we reconcile what he's saying and what you have also put on the records?
Auditors, even before, were they part of the exit meeting? Madam, were you part of the exit meeting?
I was not there at the time.
Who was there among you?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
You were part of the exit meeting?
Yes, please.
So you are not able to actually give documents to the auditors to rectify this until it comes to the notice of public account hearing, before you are claiming that you have the documents here?
Thank you very much. The projects are basically handled by the estate department, where the files are all kept. And during the exercise, they were not able to produce all the vital documents. But along the line, during the meetings at the Ministry of Finance, I was reassigned for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the Contractor Accountant General. So I didn't get the opportunity to attend all the meetings on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs when I handed over. Thank you, Chair.
And not fully participated in terms of the exit meeting. That's all. Auditors.
Honorable Chair, so these were claims that we had rejected, and it was discussed at the our meetings held with them. If they have compelling evidence that should cause us to change our stance, they can still provide them to the audit team to look at it. But as it is per our report, these claims, in our opinion, have been settled and that we don't owe the contractors involved. But if they have compelling evidence to change our stance, our position, they can still provide them to the audit team to look at it. Thank you.
Madam, very similar to what I was contemplating. This committee, this is the wrong place to bring these issues. These issues should have been brought at the time of the audit, to the auditors. And there's still the opportunity for you to go there. Ours is a post-mortem. Post-mortem is when the person has passed away, we cut the body. Oh, this was what killed that. That was what killed that. But I can't look at the body and say, if I had given him more aspirin, the person would have lived. That's when the auditors are involved. So we are looking at what had happened. So any issues, you can deal with the auditors on that one. I think we are done with this. You have a last question?
Yeah, I have a last question.
Before I discharge.
Yes, that infraction is on non-evidence of maintenance of aging analysis of arrears and commitments. Director, where's your finance director?
I'm here.
Okay, Director, I am a non-finance person. Yes, I want you to briefly educate me on the implications of non-maintenance of aging analysis when it comes to financial reporting. Briefly educate me as a non-finance person.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Non-maintenance of aging payables or whatever, we all know the implications. It may not let you get a proper figure at the time you want it, or it will take time for you to get the proper data when it is wanted. So based on the recommendation given, we have put in place to make sure that we perform aging analysis of all our payables as we perform reconciliation every month. So that is what is in place.
Mm-hmm. Director, you see, you know the implications of the implication of this very infraction. You know, you have told us. Why will you wait for the auditors to come to tell you, do this before you do, knowing very well that if you don't keep these records, these are the consequences? Director?
Honorable Chair, we tried, maybe it was not updated. Not that we didn't put it. It is in place, but it's not updated. So I'm saying that now we update it as it should be.
Okay.
When did you become Director of Finance at the Ministry?
October 2025.
October
2025.
And respectfully, Chief Director, when did you also become the Chief Director there?
End of August 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Chair. Oh, Chair. I don't. We are done. Or these things will keep repeating. Aging analysis, they will come. You ask them, they will tell you. And every day, these things keep repeating. So,
maybe as a country, if we start maybe imprisoning people for not aging these accounts, I think it will help. Madam, your building in New York is 14 floors, and you use only 3 floors. And that place is in center of town, of New York. I think it's 47th floor, 47th Street, no so.
Yes, sir. It's in a prime location.
Very prime location. Somebody supposedly removed insulation or something, and as a result, 14 stories. We use 3 or most 4. Goodness, do you know if this building, we could use all 14 floors, the revenue that we will get from rent, or some of our embassy people wouldn't have to rent from somewhere. Anyway, that is something that I just wanted to put in the air somewhere. Do you have an answer?
Your observation noted, Chair.
Madam, my observation noted. No, I want, you see,
we are working on it as part of our stride, so it's work in progress.
Madam, I'm disappointed because the time that I went there was 2007. 2007, and it's still work in progress. 2007, you were only using 3 floors out of 14 floors. And General Achampong was the one, I think, who bought that building. Center of New York. Anyway, you said it's noted.
Thank
Madam,
you, Chair.
You guys are discussing.
No. Chairman, you respect.
Yes.
Chairman,
Yes,
thank you
sir.
very much for your observation, but I think that your observation is a little bit way outdated. If you have not been there recently, we are using more than 3 floors right now. But in the same token, we are working to improve.
How many floors are you using, Honorable Minister?
Well, I can assure you about 7 to 8 floors.
So, let's give you that we are using 8 floors.
Yes.
And it's 14 floors.
Yes. It's based on investment, renovation, all kinds of aspects. So we are entering this new phase of stride where we're trying to own our properties, renovate all the structures, So it's one of our prime observation, and we are going to work on it as soon as finances are released. Thank you.
You see, Minister, there was a story they told me about it, but I will not repeat it here.
With respect, Chairman. Chairman, as I read the Auditor General's report and the explanation Madam Ambassador gave with respect to the Paris project and the JV Shindon and Design 21 project, Madam, how long have we held on to the documentation that proved that we still have an outstanding bill on those two projects?
If I can come in, when, like my colleague said, when he was reassigned and we took over, we went into the Auditor General report and we came out with those, we uncovered it.
Because my worry is that the auditors would have gone through all the documentation, start with the Ministry of Finance, that is responsible even for the payment and allocation of these things. And they are certain, per the report that they've given in this special audit, that the project is complete and settlement of debt has been fully made. But now we are saying that we still have an outstanding on that. And we have documentations to prove to the effect that we still owe the contractors on these projects. And we are looking at huge amount. And they said that apart from the first project, that is the Ethiopian Embassy or the Ethiopian High Commission building that we're doing, all the rest were not multi-year projects, which meant that they ought to fit in 1 year. And therefore, all these payments must align within those years. So if we are not able to produce documentations to them as such an important audit that has been done, and they give these conclusive remarks, and we are now telling ourselves that we hold on to documentations that prove that we owe the contractors, I think it's a bit worried. If you could furnish us, Mr. Chair, some of these documentations so that we can just oppose that with the report that we have and also be able to make some meaningful observations out of this, I think it will be very appropriate for us, because I think it's a bit worrying. Once the auditors are telling us that we've paid these amount, I'm sure that I would be aligned to what the auditors are saying up until you prove otherwise. So if you can hold to us some of these documentations, the contract and the payment that have been made, so that we can do the deductions out of that, I think it will be very appropriate.
Okay, so
we shall, Mr. Chair, we shall make the documents available.
in 2 weeks. You make it right now. Okay, you can give it to the clerk. All right, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, you and your team, you are discharged.
Thank you kindly, Honorable Chair, Honorable Committee Chairwoman, ranking members, fellow honorable members. We appreciate your time and giving us the space to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's go Minister of Sports.
Do in the name of Almighty God swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee touching the matter in issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Could you please introduce yourself to the committee?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. My name is Kofi Adams, Minister for Sports and Recreation, and I'm here with the team members who will individually introduce themselves.
Good morning, Honorable. My name is Ohomina Samoa, Chief Director.
Hello, good morning. My name is William Kati, the former Chief Director.
Good morning. My name is Abdul Karim Tosa, Director, Internal Audit.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Osman Haruna Chinibwa, former Head of Accounts.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Kwaku Ofosu-Asare, former Executive Chairman of the LOC, Accra 2023.
Good morning. My name is Osman Ali, former Director of Finance, Team African Games.
Yes, sir. Your infraction is on page 235 of the special audit, Ministry of Sports and Recreation. And the total liability that you sent, you had was 609 million. Total validated was 501 million. And what was rejected was 107. Why and what have you done about it?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would allow the internal auditor, Mr. Tosa, to deal with the answers.
Honorable Chair, the liabilities that were rejected are primarily due to translation differences, exchange rates differences.
And that amounted to that much?
Yes, Honorable Chair. There are others, but primarily it is because of exchange rate differences.
No, what about the others?
So the others are amounts that were paid, mainly amounts that were due to the national team coaches, senior national team between March and December 2024. So by the time the audit was completed, that amount was paid and is no longer payable. So it was considered as rejected, but in actual fact, it is a payment that has been made and it ceases to be a liability.
Did you make double payments?
Honorable Chair, no.
Auditors, now the ministry is saying that whatever you had out there was corrected during the audit. Or was it during the audit or after the audit or before the audit?
Honorable Chair, I didn't get the question well.
You didn't get the question well? Okay, then let me ask again. Total liability that you had was 639 million. Total validated was 501 million. And total rejected was 107 million. These were claims, these were at BTAs. My question was and is, why?
Honorable Chair, that portion of the question, I got it. But
Yes.
it was the last one that you asked that I didn't get.
Which one?
You asked something, the last one. I didn't hear it. The first one, the one you just answered is what I answered.
He asks whether you dealt with the issue during the audit or it was post-audit that you engaged with the auditors. If you say it's been resolved.
Okay, thank you. I get the question now.
Okay.
We dealt with the issues during the audit. Thank you.
But you see, it has over here, in the report, duplicated claims. 30 million claims were rejected as these transactions were already captured in the Ministry of Finance schedule and under BTAs. Out of that 107 million, 30 million was rejected because there were duplications.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. From the perspective of the ministry, there was no duplication. We were requested by the Ministry of Finance to submit our liabilities as of 31st December 2024. And we did submit all liabilities that were outstanding as of that date.
Let me remind you that you just took an oath. Do you have a copy of the report?
Yes, Honorable.
If you don't understand, you ask me, and I'll repeat my question. The auditors came. Were you part of the exit interview?
Yes, I was.
Didn't they tell you about this 30 million?
Honorable Chair, I was explaining this. If you kindly allowed me to finish, you understand.
Did they talk about the 30 million? There are only two answers, yes or no.
Yes, they talk about the 30 million.
Okay.
But Honorable, it is not a duplication from the ministry's perspective, and that is what I was explaining to you, Honorable Chair. If you allowed me, I will continue the explanation.
Continue. The whole world is listening to you.
Honorable Chair. So we submitted our liabilities as of the end of December 2024. That liability, as submitted by Ministry of Finance, did not capture any BTA. Although we have processed some transactions within the gift mix that are at the BTA level, they had not been paid as of end of December. So when we were asked to submit the liabilities, we gave those that were in the form of BTA and those that have not even matured to the BTA level to Ministry of Finance. It is the Ministry of Finance that gave the BTA details to the auditors. So I remember at one of the meetings...
Please stop it right there. You submitted something to Ministry of Finance, and Ministry of Finance forwarded it to the auditors. And now you are sitting here saying that what? It is Ministry of Finance. Where did all those documentation and invoices and monies to that amount that is being termed as duplication, where did it originate from? It did come from Ministry of Sports. Ministry of Finance does not conjure figures. Ministry of Finance works with the figures that the MDAs provide to them. Let's get it straight. Ministry of Finance will every day work with the figures that the ministries, departments, and agencies submit to them. So please, don't sit here and say that you submitted this and the ministry was Ministry of Finance that forwarded something different from what you submitted. Your issue is answer to the duplicated amount of 30 million. You go, you finish, you answer to the other things that you have been cited for. That is why we are here. Don't come and sit here and accuse any ministry, department, or agency for something that you yourself should have done and done right. Something that you yourself submitted to the Ministry of Finance. Please, respectfully.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm answering the question with regards to the 30 million. It is not a duplication, and I emphasize. When we asked of our liabilities, we submitted. Some liabilities have matured to the level of BTAs. So at the meeting with the Ministry of Finance, it was agreed that they should net it off the BTAs, because they've gone through the process to be, their liabilities have gone through the process to be at the BTA level, there is the need to maintain them. And so we did not submit the liability separate and BTA separate. So there is no duplication coming from our end.
So did you, respectfully, did you say this to the auditors during the exit meeting?
Yes.
Did you explain to them?
Yes, we discussed, and the Ministry of Finance, we discussed that.
No, I'm not talking about Ministry of Finance. I'm talking about the auditors who came to, audit your books. Did you explain this to them?
Yes, we did.
Let me tell you, if you are submitting liabilities and you know very well that some have gotten to the BTA stage, you don't add it to it. When you add it, it is duplication. It's as simple as that. When you are submitting arrears, outstandings, and you, the ministry, you know that some of the invoices or your submissions are at the BTA stage, and you would know because you will have to process it on the gift miss. So you know those ones that are at BTA stage. If you go ahead and you submit that as existing arrears, it is called duplication. So we don't want to sit here and be going back and forth. That is the truth. It is called duplication. And that is why the auditors cited the 30 million as you can shake your head, but we are speaking to what is in the report, not what you come to sit here and say you are answering to. This is what is in the report. You should have challenged the auditors there and then, but you have stated here that you had those BTAs even in the outstanding claims. And if you had the BTAs in the outstanding claims and you refused to take them out and you sent it to Ministry of Finance, what were you expecting Ministry of Finance to do? Because it was for onward submission to the auditors, and they did exactly that. Minister, we cannot challenge what the auditors have put here. He should have challenged it when they had the opportunity to do so. So he can shake his head, but we are speaking to the facts. That is right in front of us here. And that, what he did, is called duplication. You don't need a prophet to tell you this.
And Minister, I wanted to go on with the young man. You said, what's your position?
Honorable Chair, Director, Internal Audit.
Director of Internal Audit. Okay, you are disputing the 30 million. When Madam Atta-Mills explained to you, did you understand that if we are adding, did you understand her explanation on duplication?
Honorable Chair.
If you didn't understand, let me move on, sir. We are not here to have a shout match. Master, this one I can just hand it over to Yoko. Then you can, and then Auditor General, Attorney General. Then you guys go and sit down and then discuss it. They came there when they asked you, there were some unsupported claims. A claim of 35.8 million. This was 2024. Was charged as cost of 6,000 police officers deployed for the All Africa Games. Could not be supported. Documents such as deployment registers, duty rosters, attendance logs, or official movement orders were not available to substantiate this claim. In addition, a bill for 455,000 was submitted to the Ministry of Sports for the improvement of water supply by the Evendi hostel, at the Evendi hostel, used to host All Africa Games. No documents were available to substantiate this claim. Now, the 35 million for the police officers, did you have any documentation?
Honorable Chair, the ministry also raised questions about the 35 million because of lack of documentation. Thank you.
You raised questions?
Yes.
But you had paid that amount?
No.
Or you hadn't paid that amount?
We hadn't paid.
So this was part of the rejection?
Yes. So.
And now you were talking about, what do you call it, exchange rate.
Honorable Chair.
Is it part of the exchange rate?
Honorable Chair, I said that predominantly the differences arise out of exchange rate, but there are other ones. So
How
this is
much
part
of it was because of exchange rate?
Honorable Chair, unless I do the computation, the percentage.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You said unless you do the computation, we are looking at 3 different infractions in the book. One is a 30, another is a 35, and the other is a 36. If you casually put these 3 together, you are looking at almost about a 90. And the thing we are talking about is 107. So ordinarily, you are looking at a differentiation of about 17. So if you say predominantly, it is not even up to a 20% of that. So obviously that could not have been. You just could have studied the infractions well and spoke to those infractions. But you see, when the auditors and us here talk about the duplication, take your time and appreciate the position from where the auditors and we are also coming from, so that when next time you are given the opportunity of submitting these claims, you don't make the same infraction. You are being asked to bring outstandings to me to pay. Along the line, you've made several transactions that you brought to me that I have processed to the position of a BTA. You brought me all those documentations associated with those. When I ask you tomorrow, and you include the same thing you brought to me yesterday, upon what basis and what documentations are you going to add on to those ones? Those claims you've already brought to me, and you resubmit the same claims to me again in another day. Obviously, it will be duplication. Because the person has already acknowledged the first one. You understand? So when you are asked to submit, and you know one has already gone, you've supported them with all the documentations. What documentations are you supporting the second one with? So yes, you probably may disagree, but the point is that those things went twice. Do you understand? They did. So obviously, it would be because already in the books of the finance, you brought those documentation that they've acknowledged that they are going to pay. And in your book that you are bringing today, you've again included that for us to pay. So they will produce all of those too, your accounts with them. It's like doing a bank reconciliation. Unpresented checks would have to be taken off from one of those ones. But if you still hold on to those two, you would obviously will sway one of your books, either your cash book or your bank balance. And that becomes a problem. So that is the point. And secondly, you said you raised issues with the 35 million. Who submitted the 35 million claim?
Before we move to the 35 million, I think the auditors and the committee is right in terms of the analysis of the duplication issue. The understanding from the audit point and their submission is looking at conclusive payments and not factoring BTAs, a payment that has reached the BTA level as having been considered. I think that is erroneous. And so factoring it as duplication is right. And I believe that a cue is taken, and in future, I don't think that they have to repeat that you should check payments that have reached that stage and take them off when you are submitting your liabilities. Thank you.
But, Honorable Minister, thank you for that statement. But it's worrying if an internal auditor who had the chance to talk to the auditors at the time of the exit interview is coming to sit here to argue. I'm very concerned. I am very, 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 very concerned. And then let me remind the public that it got to a time, Ministry of Sports, we used to change a minister almost every year. Ministry of Sports, we used to change a minister every year. If we can't understand this duplication, I don't understand why we should change a minister every year. Maybe we need to change everybody in the ministry every year and keep the minister. We are talking, this amount that you are talking about exchange rate is only 14 million. Only 14 million.
You said primarily.
Primarily, it's only 14 million.
Out of 100. And then you
So we are moving on from the 30 million that the minister has said it was duplication. And sir, if an internal auditor, up your game. Now, unsupported claims, 35.8 million. Just for 6,000 police officers. 6,000 police officers. That was the so-called, I don't know whether they call it Africa Games or All Africa Games.
Mr. Chairman, it's African Games.
It's Africa Games. And they spent 35.8 million 2024 for police officers. And we don't have documentation on it. How? Ministry of Sports. How? And you want to sit here and come and argue?
Chairman, with respect, on that matter, internal auditor, you said you raised issues with that at the Ministry of Finance.
No, with the police, when they submitted the bill.
When they submitted the bill?
Yes.
Who did the scheduling with the police for them to be able to deploy that number of people?
Please, the LOC.
The reason why I ask is this. Once answering that, and who submitted that bill as an addition to the outstandings of the ministry to the Ministry of Finance, all in your schedule of payables?
So on the scheduling, since we have the executive chair of the LOC for Accra 2023 here, let him speak to that. So we'll get back to the submission. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and members of the committee. I mean, this was the bill submitted by the police at the end of the games, and I was really baffled when the bill was submitted to me because we didn't reach that agreement. Initially, they were to have policemen to assist in carrying out police duties. We were initially even feeding them. Then they pulled out. And from nowhere, at the end of it, they brought this bill. And I wrote to them to justify why such a quantum. And they couldn't justify. So that is where we've gotten to. I was shocked to the marrow with the kind of bill they brought. And I said, please give us justifications and break it down to support what you are claiming.
How many weeks did the games go on for?
We started from the first, second, third, with regard to the early games. But officially, the game started from 8th to 23rd. But we had early games. So give or take, let's say we had about 2 weeks.
2 weeks of games?
About 3 weeks. Let's say from 1st to 23rd. So let's take it for 3 weeks.
Let's be generous and make it 4 weeks. Let's be generous and make it 4 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, you'll be stretching it.
So, okay, I'm just trying to be generous today because I'm in white shirt. Let's make it 4 weeks. If the police is charging you 35.8 million for 4 weeks, what is their budget for the whole year for the police force in Ghana?
Mr. Chairman, your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
Doc, maybe his guess will be as good as yours, but let me ask, how did this bill find its way to the Ministry of Finance?
So now let's get the auditor to deal with the internal auditor, how something that the ministry itself raised questions got submitted to Ministry of Finance when the answers have not been fully provided.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we request for further evidence to be able to establish, the auditors also came in. We did submit it, but indicate that this one ourselves, we are
No,
not.
the auditors came in only after your
The
submission.
submission. So that should not
We
even be a point.
submitted before it was given to the auditors to come and authenticate.
Good.
So you have submitted, you said earlier that you raised concerns yourself when the police submitted the bill. But you still went ahead to submit it to the Ministry of Finance, who then invited the auditors to look at what you have submitted. The question is, how did you submit what you have raised questions on yourself? That's what they want to know.
Yes, thank you. We got assurance from the police that they will provide the supporting documents.
Internal auditor. Internal auditor. Internal auditor. So now you see, if the auditors therefore raise a query of dubious claims, would they be wrong?
No, absolutely they are not wrong.
So if it's dubious, the person who submitted the dubious claims, what has that person done?
The person is submitting a dubious claim is misleading public office.
And to mislead a public office, does it come with sanctions?
Honorable Chair, some lessons truly have been learned in all,
Honorable Minister, I'll give you the
this
opportunity to
situation.
come. But you see, Honorable Minister, with respect, why we ask these questions is that the general public is watching. At times we try to cast doubt as to even the work that the auditors have done.
Yes.
We challenge it to an extent that some of even the recommendations, the findings of the auditors and observations are wrong. And you see, that is the challenge that we have. Because once we do that, we give room for some of these infractions to further on. Yes, we learn lessons, but in learning the lessons, we must be able to admit that some of these things that we did are the reasons why the auditors raised those issues. Otherwise, people aren't going to learn because it feels like he's justified enough to give a reason for his answer. And that is the problem. You see, when you take these observations of the auditors, they are just three. The first one, we had a challenge with it, vehemently saying that cannot be the case. The second one, we tried to justify that. He tried to justify that by saying we even raised queries and issues with it ourselves. But we ended up sending it, assuming, Minister, assuming that the minister had found the 35 million. The Minister for Finance had found the 35 million and paid that. Let's be candid. We would have said that, oh, it came. We would therefore have used all manner of ways to make sure that documentations were prepared to the tune of those amounts. But as we sit now, you and I know that if you challenge a documentation, so on what basis and what supporting documents did you send those claims to the Ministry of Finance to pay? And that is the question under contention.
Well, that is why I perfectly, first and foremost, will commend the Finance Minister for requesting the auditors to audit all these things before payment is done. And I'm on record as having commended that action because it's helped save the state a lot of monies that would have been paid for things that were not done. You are right also in questioning our internal auditor, and that's why we brought him here, because normally they should see documents before processing and advancing further, and it should be no document, we are taking no action. Unfortunately, most times we have relied on people's words that they will provide, as he is admitting that the police first sent a bill. The executive chair said he was shocked himself because initially they were paying for some of the cost, but then because they raised the concerns and the police said we'll bring you documents later, they forwarded it for payments, and maybe no follow-up was made for those documents. And as we speak now, nothing has truly been submitted. And I believe the education part is for me where I'm enjoying that internal auditors should know that you don't agree to forward something to Ministry of Finance for payment when all documents have not been submitted. You don't use somebody's word that we will bring. That is the essence of internal auditing before payments have done. So this is not something I want us to spend a lot of time on. The auditors are right, the committee is right. And we commend the finance minister for inviting the auditors to look into some of these payments for verification before he moves ahead to do it.
Minister, you see, I am glad. But when the special audits are made and rejections are made, the first people that are accused of wrongdoing are the people at the ministry and the politician who is the minister. When all these rejections are made, the former ministers and people in those institutions that these claims were sent to and the rest are the first people to be blamed. The former administration, you see the amount of money that would have been paid to people. I say this because today we are sitting here, maybe at the negligence or otherwise of somebody, a blame and aspersions has been cast on somebody. Because this special audit and how it came about and some of these things and the rejections, the huge numbers that we are talking about, over billions and billions and all of these things, presumably we're seeing like, oh, it was being put in by somebody and payment would have been.
Yes, so Minister.
Thank you very much for raising this. I'm even a victim of that. We just concluded the Accra 2026 Senior Athletic Championship. Athletes from various countries came with their voting polls. And when they vote and it breaks, they say, Minister didn't buy correct voting polls for them. Meanwhile, all of them came from their own countries with their voting polls. And that is what is always being used. We didn't provide them with any voting poll that they use. What we provided was not used. So the political heads are always the victims.
Minister, so I'm just being curious. Police protection enshrined in the Constitution is their mandate to protect people at the stadium. Why are we, spending that huge amount on police? Which is their mandate to provide security? Why?
Well, you are right to an extent, but when there's a tournament, there is some heavy movement than normal. And so they call something ration and maybe fuel for some other activities that they may not have budgeted for under their normal operations. But the figure, I think, raised some concern. And that is why the executive chair himself said when he received the bill, he was like a bit surprised. And something went wrong somewhere. I think the body was behaving individually. The hand was behaving like I am hand alone. The leg was leg alone. They were not communicating. So some of these things passed. People took advantage of it.
And yeah. The reason why I'm curious is I'm surprised because if it were investigation, police would have, if it were a different entity, police would have set investigation in place. But here are they, this is not good for the image of Ghana Police Service, especially spending such a huge amount and there's no documentation. Claiming that they have spent, claim that they have spent such amount and then there's no documentation from the Ghana Police Force, Ghana Police Service. It's indictment on them.
Honorable member, this is where, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to come in and see if the internal auditor will redeem himself. You indicated that you were in communication or in contact with the police service for verification of whatever they submitted. When you were submitting the claim to the Ministry of Finance, did you add any note to that portion that relates to the Ghana Police Service? And don't forget that you're under oath, so be careful.
I will defer to the accounts because they did the submission, although we work as a team. So the head of accounts will answer that.
Thank you, Mr.
By the way, head of accounts then, he's no more with the, he's not the current head of account. I just want to, for emphasis, he was the head of accounts then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the accounts, we submit documents when they are minuted to us to take necessary action. And when we are compiling them for resubmission to Ministry of Finance, we aggregate them and submit them as such. And as long as they are liability, they become liabilities, we submit them, we compile the list and submit them.
Without any supporting documents?
With supporting documents, of course.
What supporting documents did you add to this 35 million for the police?
There were no, actually, apparently no supporting documents.
So why are you sending this into the finance ministry to pay when there are no supporting documents?
In fact, at that time, it was a transition period. And
what transition?
Say, please. See, we are not joking here. It cannot be a transition period because auditors tell us when this audit was done. Somewhere in June, right? So are you telling me June 2025 was a transition period? Respectfully, you have committed a serious blunder. Come sit here and give us an explanation. And you want to explain it away politically. We have gone beyond that. You heard the minister just say. That. We have gone beyond that. You submit 35 million Ghana cedis claim to Ministry of Finance for payments without any claim. And then you sit here and watch the faces of Ghanaians and tell Ghanaians that when the auditors were conducting this audit, it was a transition period. My brother, don't say that. Don't say that. The transition period was between 10th of December to the 6th of January. The audit was conducted from June to somewhere in August. Please.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. What it is that these submissions were made more than once. At the transition period, we submitted.
The transition period was between 6th of 10th to 6th. And at that time, I was at the Ministry of Finance, respectfully.
We did
so you cannot come and sit here and say something that is not true.
Mr. Chairman, Chairperson, thank you very much. We've noted it and we know.
Please.
Some of these is that had no proper supporting documents.
Minister,
have been submitted.
We will keep your internal auditor like that. Your finance director is rather making things worse.
Thank you very much.
Well, he was a former head of finance, so he's currently with what's your institution now? Agric. So he's now with Ministry of Agric.
You see, Minister, my suggestion, strong suggestion, is this. When we started and I said 107 million was rejected, the internal auditor